So on Friday, August the 29th, 2014, my new EP is coming out. This is a 4-track EP. It's called the D EP, and it features this track that I'm going to do a deconstruction of. So this is a track called Got To, and it takes its name from the vocal hook. We'll see that fairly soon. And the one important thing about this track is that it's a showcase for my synthesizer, the MPT Deep Synthesizer, the recent update V2. And, the main musical elements in this track are created using that synthesizer. Take a look at the arrange view here, and you can also see that I've used that subtractive technique. So this is, I've got a video all about it. I'll put a link to that so you can go and check it out if you haven't seen it. And it's based upon the concept of creating 8-bar chunks and just filling the screen with all of the elements that you have, and then using the 0 key to deactivate those clips to take them away. So basically, you can see the structure here is defined by all of the clips that are activated and all of the others that I've turned off here to create that vibe. And it's a really good, strong way to get your arrangement going when you've got a few elements, looping around, and you want to stretch them out into the finished track. So I'm going to break it down step by step. Let's focus on the beats to start off with. Going to select here the drum rack, and you can see the programming. There's not actually a lot of variation occurring here. It's pretty much the same beat going over and over again, with a couple of variations here at certain points. Certainly when there are sections like this, the beat is cutting out and coming back. It's got that kind of DJ cut and paste kind of vibe. I've done that on quite a few of my tunes. And I want to show you here also there is another element. Now this is a break. This is an old hip-hop break from the 80s, okay, so the late 80s, and I've changed it quite a lot. It's become something rather different, and I'll show you what it is. But firstly, let me just solo the beats, and we'll take a look. Let me just take this loop brace so we can focus on little individual sections. Going to kick off with this beat here. Let's have a listen. So what we're listening to there is a selection of drum sounds. You can see here that I set this kit up. It's a custom kit, and these are drum samples from what I remember from the Machine library. There's a kick here called the Kick MA Kick. There is an 8-ball, which is a really nice heavy hip-hop style kick that's being used in a certain position. There's a hat, clap, and another clap. Now I'm just going to double click on these and take a look at what's going on. You can see that kick, the hip hop kick, has got a lot of low cut on there. That's deliberate because we have a bass line coming in later and it was taking up too much space. Here the hat has just got some low cut on the EQ and some high cut there as well. Clap, didn't do anything with it. This clap, a little bit of a roll off you can see here, so below 180 Hertz using the 3-band EQ, EQ3. And let's listen to those again. Going to bring up the mixer, expand this. Let's take a look. I can't remember if I did any processing over the whole drum group. No, I didn't. So that's literally as it is. Okay, so programmed in there. Let's take a look at the arrangement and see where that break comes in. So we'll see the extra texture that the break beat adds. All right, so let's just add a solo on there too. Let's have a listen. Going to take it off. Back. So you can hear that really nice movement that's going on in the sound. It's evolving over a period of time. And so what it's doing is it's creating a bit more interest in the beat. If you have a static beat, that's just kind of looping and nothing new is going on with it, overlaying something else that has some kind of movement can make it sound less boring. So the cycle of this, in terms of the movement, is basically defined over here. And we've got here a phaser. All right, so you can see here that this is rotating as such. It's taking those frequencies and moving them around. So let me just show you here. I'm going to take this off, have a listen. So here goes that movement. I'm going to turn that off. So that's how it was before. There's a lot of really nice movement in the sound in terms of the background noise and texture. That's one of the things that I really liked about that break. The original break was about 80 BPM or so. I'm going to take off the EQ so you can hear it more in its raw state. Take this one off. So listen to that. That's like a breaks tune if we took it up to about 140 BPM. So taking that bass off. Shift in tone with that EQ, phaser to add the movement, and this is being compressed. You can see that. And the reason why I'm compressing that is because the phaser is creating movement not only through the frequencies but also with the level, the volume of the sound. So that's going on there. So that's happening. And then I'm just having a look at this other compressor after. I'm wondering why I did that. Did I do a sidechain? Doesn't look like it. I can't remember why I did that. All right, so it looks as if it was designed to be sidechained. I left it on, and so yeah, mystery there, but it sounds good. So let's keep going. Just going to point out that clap. So let's focus in on there. Hear that one? That's just before this one, which is the main one. In fact, I'm layering them both. So look, 1, 2 at the same time. On here, the second time round, this clap comes slightly earlier. And as a contrast to that, that little hip hop kick comes in there. So that's just repeated over and over again. The breakbeats adding the variation, the tone variation. Now there is something else that comes in here. There is a vocal hit. So I'm going to solo this. Now in terms of what's happening with that, you can hear some delays occurring. So let's open it up. Let's take a look. Here is a vocal. Now, you know, this is taken from the Ultimate Acapella 1. This is an old classic vinyl a cappella, and I've got this on my hard disk from a long time ago, and it's got some real classic cliches in there. You know, this here is very disguised. It's not designed to be recognizable. Just cut very short with the delay on there. This is using the TAL Dub 2 delay. This is a free delay. Let me just bring this up. There we go. So that's from the TAL. Very, very good bunch of free plugins. And Togu, how do you say this? Togu audio line. So look them up, TAL, search for that Dub 2. You can download that for free. Really nice analog style delay. And some low cut on here. So let me just take these two off, have a listen. That's how it was. Creating a really nice texture on top of the beat. And you also notice there is a crash cymbal just to signify a certain position in the bar, basically showing you it's the beginning of the 8-bar section. And now I've got some fills coming up here. And you'll notice there that I actually dropped the kick on the programming. You see there's a gap here. The reason is because we're about to go into the bass line. So just kind of like a little audio cue so the audience knows something is coming up. And there was something else that I meant to show you there. I forgot what it is. Don't worry, let's keep going. So let me take that about halfway through. Let's have a listen. So there is one of the first musical elements that's coming from my synthesizer. So this is a preset that if you've downloaded it, you would have been able to play around with yourself. So I created these presets. You can see all the list of them here. And in the bass category, there's a few. So I've used the UK Bass 2 preset. I've customized things a little bit. I've adjusted the levels on the oscillators to balance. And this is a lovely bass sound. You know, I'm really pleased with this. And just to show you the signal processing that's going on, the Vibe EQ here And you can see that there's just a little bit of warming up at the 60 Hertz here, very slight amount of boosting on the gain. I'm cutting at 190. So 190 Hertz, just taking a very small amount off there, and that's pretty much it. Then there is some compression going on here. So VC2A, I use this very often for bass sounds like this. I'm just going to show you. And let me turn these two off so you get a sense of how it sounded before. So really quite subtle. Really, I'm just using this to control the volume levels as it's going up and down in terms of the melody on the bass riff. So let's have a look. Let's bring that back in. I'm just going to show you here, as we're building up to this, this is a very kind of common scenario where we've got new musical elements that are coming in, and they're coming in every 8 bars. So next up we've got an organ coming in, and then we've got a pad coming in. So we started off, look, we have the drum intro, and then we have bass line plus organ, bass line, organ plus pad. And this is very easy to achieve with that subtractive method. So let's have a listen. Whoa, I spoiled the surprise. Let's come back just before the organ. So this is an organ patch that I created on my synth. Let's come back. Man, I love that sound, honestly. You know, I really enjoyed building this synthesizer, and I just remember when I created some of these patches, I got really excited. I thought, you know, I want to go and use these in a track, and I hope other people use them as well. I've had so much feedback from people on this. You know, it's been amazing. So many nice messages about it. So, you know, there's something really cool about this synth. I really like it. And so that's happening. That's a chord there. So you can see here the organ and then the pad. And so that's kind of like introducing the musical sections. And then what happens is, because we've heard those, we needed a change, you know, and I've dropped those elements out. I've deselected them, and we've got a new section coming in with a vocal. But let me just go back and backtrack on those. Let's go onto the organ and let's take a look. And notice, you know, these are only single notes because my synthesizer creates the chords. So have a look here. I've got basically 6 oscillators that are all running at the same time. You can see the tuning here. So the first one is -12 semitones, next one is +3, then we have +7, +10, +14, +26, and all of these are being played at the same time. So it's creating the chord from one finger. EQ, just to enable it to sit better in the mix, take it off. And then we got some compression, very mild. You see that, very slight, almost negligible. Don't even know why I even bothered. Then followed by the low cut over here. You hear that low bass note? Don't need that because the bass is doing its job in that region. So similar thing. Let's take a look at the pad and solo this. Love that pad. Let me just take these off. And you hear how it was in its raw state. Lovely and warm, but you know, because I got my kick and my bass line going on, I felt when I had all that richness, it was too much in the mix. I needed to thin the sound out. And let me show you, you know, just for some context, if I did take these off, have a listen to see how thick, how much it kind of jumps out too much when it's all together. I mean, there are aspects of that that are quite pleasant, but you know, I considered all of the options here, and I preferred it to be that nice kind of light, thin chord cutting through. just creates a more defined bottom end for that bass. And right, okay, let's take about halfway through. We're going to get into that section where the vocal comes in. This is a slightly naughty vocal, but it did come from this vinyl, and I did buy the vinyl. I assumed that I'd be alright to use it, but I've since realised that actually that vinyl had a whole bunch of samples on it that were from other people's tunes. So this is a slightly cliched, slightly recognisable vocal, but I tried other options. I tried other vocals and things, and this just had a certain vibe, alright? So I've had to take a gamble on it, but have a listen. Right, let's take a look at some of the processing that's going on here, because there's a fair amount going on. Let me just select all of these, and I'm going to group these together so I can just take them all off at the same time. So this is how it sounded on its own. Let's just take it just before. That you'll be there. That you'll be there. So we can hear a fair amount of the weights from the original vinyl, and it's very dry, very clipped, but I liked that vibe. And so we've got a bunch of things going on here. The Tau Dub again, you know, these guys make some great plugins that are free. The Tau Reverb, I love this, so it's adding some space. This is basically a series of inserts, so one after another. This is running from each stage to the next, and this is a tape echo, so there's a Roland space echo style delay, and then some EQ. And you know, I like the vibe that this creates. That you'll be there. That you'll be there. That you'll be there. That you'll be. And you can see with the structure, you know, we've got here the organist coming back, and then we've got another vocal hit. This is like another little sample. Let's have a listen to that. And I really like that moment in the structure, because we've gone from having some musical elements in the vocal to something that's really stripped back. You know, I've taken that break away and taken the organ away and the pad away, and we've got that vocal percussive hit that's running now with that delay. So it's working really nicely. And then what happens is literally the same thing, but we have the break coming back and then the vocal riff again. So let's have a listen. And actually the vocal's not being triggered so much. Down to the first breakdown. Slightly different programming here, building up to the next section. See, there's hardly any musical elements here, but it's the arrangement that's creating the contrast and the differences in tone. The effects from the vocals are creating sort of overlapping textures that almost help these transitions as well. So it's a real exercise in simplicity. What is it? 3 musical elements? It's just the bass sound, the organ, and the pad, and that is it. Okay, coming up to a new musical element actually. Okay, let me just stop a second. So if I had to break down without any rhythm on here, it may sound a little bit too bare. So if I just highlight that and take it off. See, that's too much of a break in the rhythm. So look, I just allowed that to keep going. So we got some tension from the string. The beats pick up on the second part here. Let me show you something. Right, so what I've got is the LFO is modulating the pitch. So let me just turn this off. Sorry, let me take this off on OS2. So only put the LFO onto OS2. All right, have a listen. So that's constant. But what I did was I turned the LFO to modulate the pitch of the second oscillator. So there are two oscillators, and this creates one tone that's constant and then the other one that is moving. So the depth of the pitch modulation is here on intensity. The frequency is the speed of that modulation, so it's really slow. So have a listen again. So you hear one string is constant in pitch on oscillator 1. The second oscillator is moving up and down in pitch by a small amount. Alright, so 22 intensity. Let me show you what would happen if I increase that. So I deliberately put it at 22. Oh, by the way, it's a frequency, you know, if you want to hear this is going to be faster, okay? I can't remember what value I had it on there, but it was somewhere around here. There we go. So that's something that's a little bit different. It's a bit more edgy. It creates a real nice tension. So let's take the solo off and let's have a look. So yeah, now we've got the typical outro for DJs where it's just stripping down those elements over the 8-bar sequences, giving them plenty of space for the beats on the very end. So to conclude the video, let's take a look at what I've done on the mastering chain here. So it is a DIY mastering job, and you know, I'm really pleased with the results. It's been played on a whole variety of systems, sounding great. So let me show you what we've got. We've got the Slate Digital VCC. Okay, so this is like almost as if the signal is running through a vintage desk, right? The Brit 4K is the SSL 4000 series, very nice kind of classic sounding desk. All right, you can switch it. I preferred the sound of it on there. The next thing that I've got in my chain is the virtual bus compressors rack on. I didn't need to have all of these turned on, to be honest. I could have just had the one, but I was experimenting with different settings. So I'm using the SSL bus compressor here, the FG Grey. And my settings are pretty much in neutral positions, so it's not a slow attack, it's not a fast attack over here. So you can see it's about 3 milliseconds. The release is to auto, threshold isn't too low, ratio is pretty low, and 1.5 to 1. I'm just using it for gelling the whole thing together. All right, so vibe EQ, and what we got here, just a little bit of a dip at 2.5K. I thought it was a little bit too much. I've got the low cut set to 30 Hertz, so rolling off below 30. And then I've got over here the virtual tape machines. Love the sound of this. And then they're running into the L2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all of this Slate stuff and the EQ. I'm going to group these together. And there shouldn't be too much of a level variation, but I want to show you before and after with these. So this is hitting the L2 as normal. Let me just turn these off again. So that's that. Let's turn them back on. So for me, that's sounding a lot smoother. Let me try and get another section where it may be more apparent. So it sounds more polished and more finished, you know, to me with those on. So I'm going to take them off again. Have a listen at this section. Right, that was that. Let's put the slate back on. So really, those elements there are giving it a nice, for me, a vintage vibe. You know, you can actually hear it when I'm stopping and starting the transport. You're hearing that tape noise come in and out, you know, and the tape noise is one of the magic things that I like about this. If you're after a modern contemporary sound, you wouldn't want to use that sort of thing, but I definitely wanted to go for a vintage vibe on here. And yes, you know, these are contributing a different level overall going into the L2, but you can clearly hear the difference there with what's going on with those. So that's a little tour of track called Got To. It's one of 4 tracks on the EP, which is forthcoming 29th of August. So check it out. And I'm hoping to do some deconstructions of the other tracks after the releases come out.